Hello friends, we are starting another lecture on Aristotle. In the last lecture we had discussed, or we had just gone through with the introductory part of the paper we are going to start, that is the criticism paper, and we talked about Aristotle and Plato. Plato, I told you, was the teacher of Aristotle, and I had also given you a hint of how Aristotle came forward with new ideas and rebuffed some of the ideas given by his teacher, that is Plato. So in this lecture we will be talking about Aristotle and Plato, what were the differences, what were the similarities between them. So basically a comparison of both the student and the teacher. So Plato's period is 428 to 347 BC and Aristotle 384 to 322 BC, and both of them were the most influential philosophers in history. Socrates was also seen as a great philosopher and as his pupil. Plato was greatly influenced by his teachings, and Plato became the teacher of Aristotle, who, although a long-term pupil, was able to find many faults in Plato's theories and in fact became a great critic of his teacher. Despite his criticisms, though, Aristotle was also influenced by Plato and making their works, which target the same aspects of philosophy, easily comparable. Both Plato and Aristotle based their theories on four widely accepted beliefs. What are these beliefs? Number one is that knowledge must be of what is real. Means it should not be a copy or imitation sort of thing. It should be of what is real. Number two, the world experienced via the senses is what is real. Then number three, knowledge must be of what is fixed and unchanging. Means things which are transitory, knowledge regarding them is not relevant. The world, and number four, the world experienced by the senses is not fixed and unchanging. So these points led to a skeptic point of view which both philosophers wished to target, as both had agreed that knowledge is possible. In order to overcome this prevalent contradiction in the argument, it became necessary that each philosopher chose a point to disregard and prove it to be unnecessary. Plato chose to reject the claim that world experience through the senses is real, while Aristotle rejected the claim that knowledge must be of what is fixed and unchanging. This presented problems to be overcome by each philosopher. Plato had to give an account of where knowledge could be found, while Aristotle had to account for how to have knowledge of that which is undergoing change. So these contrary notions led both the philosophers to an overwhelming difference in thought. So next is the definition of form. What is the definition of the thing which they were saying that it is a form? Plato and Aristotle both used their definitions of form to overcome their relative problems when it came to knowledge. Form for both philosophers was able to classify all things, such as chairs are chairs because they reflect the form of a chair. However, their precise definitions of form were very different from each other. Plato claimed that particulars, that is, objects, are only crude representations of their form. For example, a beauty or a beautiful object such as Helen of Troy is physical and accessible to the senses. Her beauty is also only temporary and relative because it is changing to the observer, because aging and individual opinions alter how her beauty is observed, because some people may think that she was beautiful, other may not. Her beauty being combined with non-beautiful parts and non-beautiful perspectives such as organs mean that she cannot contain the permanent form of beauty within herself. Rather, Plato claimed that the form of beauty is not accessible to the senses and is not physical, existing outside of time and space, and so can only be understood through reason. The form of beauty also differs from the beauty particular, as it is eternally and irrefutably beautiful, no matter who experiences it and at what time. On the other hand, Aristotle refuted Plato's definition, believing it to be unclear and illogical, in claiming that a chair can be understood to be a chair due to its relationship with the form existing outside of time and space. Instead, Aristotle's method of defining an object's form was through the object's purpose, which it has been given by the designer. So it seems to be more practical. So a chair is a chair because it has been designed to have the function of a chair. That of which the chair is made could have been given a different form if it had been arranged differently. This way, the form of an object exists within the object and all similarly designed and purposed objects. So, it is unnecessary to disengage from this world in order to understand a form, as it can be observed and understood on the earth. This also enables one to have knowledge of an object while it is undergoing changes, as its change is contained within its purpose. For example, an acorn has within its form the potential to become an oak tree, means some sort of seed. It has the potential of becoming a oak tree if not interfered with. The change which it is to undergo is contained within the knowledge of its form. This became the basis of Aristotle's study and explanation of functions, and Aristotle proposed that nature does nothing in vain, as everything has a purpose given to it, perhaps by a god. With this, Aristotle looks not only at human artifacts but also nature, because eyes have different structures and methods of operation between species, yet they all share the form of an eye, as they all exist for the purpose of seeing. Each philosopher, though, used form to understand objects. Only Plato believes it is required to gain knowledge. Plato also thinks it essential to disengage from this world to discover an object's form, whereas Aristotle believes we need only study the objects and discover its function. Then is the human condition. What does Plato say about it? Plato's allegory of the cave is the key to understanding his view of the human condition. In this allegory, the human condition is likened to being trapped in a cave facing the back wall, only able to see shadows and unaware that there is anything else in the world. The world beyond, though, contains the truth of reality and acts as a higher plane which must be assessed in order to gain knowledge. One person in the cave is set free and forced to climb a steep hill, representing the struggle and effort it takes to gain knowledge and learn as a philosopher would learn or would try to learn. The struggle is also portrayed as a worthwhile act, as the person freed now knows reality and not merely the shadow of it. The people remaining in the cave represent the ignorant, uneducated majority of society, and these people, when the philosophically enlightened person returns, are unwilling to believe him and would rather cast him away than accept his truth. This allegory displays Plato's feeling about his teacher, that is Socrates. because he was also treated for attempting to enlighten his pupils. It also reveals how Plato's own feelings towards gaining knowledge were, which would have been inspired by his teacher. Plato was, we can say, a transcendentalist, meaning he believed that to understand truth one must transcend beyond this world to a higher reality where true concepts exist. In this, he thinks that we have to reach beyond the senses. The knowledge found is unchanging. This makes it necessary to use asceticism to find the truth. By doing this, Plato is able to ignore the sensory distraction of the body in which he is trapped, while also minimizing the distractions of the appetites of the body, such as food and other worldly pleasures. Plato uses mathematics as the paradigm of knowledge, as its truth exists beyond sensory perception. Then, Aristotle does not agree with this idea of human condition and uses biology as the paradigm for knowledge. This encompasses his view that knowledge need not be of an unchanging nature but can be gained by observing the world around us. Aristotle becomes the leading forefather of the naturalist thought in philosophy, which studies natural occurrences in condition as a trap distracting to mind to gain knowledge and the mind from the truth. Instead, Aristotle believed we could use the body as a tool to aid us in learning. His view of everything having a purpose would suggest that the human body itself has a purpose which allows it to accommodate what humans should be able to have knowledge of. If learning were to require asceticism, then it would suggest that humans are not meant to or did not have the capacity to know or learn these things. In observing natural occurrences, Aristotle was able to discover a lot about how it develops in nature and for what reason it acts as it does. To conclude, we can say the differences between Plato and Aristotle's theories outweigh the similarities. However, both the philosophers do leave holes and questions in their arguments. Plato is often criticized for being too elitist in his views, as he requires a great amount of time devoted to asceticism in order to learn. He also sees the mass public as ignorant and incapable, or at least unwilling to accept the truth of a reality beyond our own. Whereas Aristotle is much more grounded and includes everybody when it comes to their ability to learn. He also criticizes Plato for suggesting that forms exist outside of time and space, as they are non-physical entities. Aristotle raises the question of how something which existed beyond time and space can have a connection with those particulars which exist within time and space. However, his belief that everything has a purpose also leaves doubts, as there are examples of things in nature which do not have a purpose, such as the human appendix. Both fail to account for the possibility of chance happenings, and each philosopher believes there is an ultimate truth and explanation to everything. Both have ultimately left large gaps in their theories which leave them open to criticism. However, their theories led to two of the greatest philosophical views, transcendentalism and naturalism.